Okay, I am live here. Thank you guys for joining. I had to start this right from my little owls. So let's hope it plays tonight. If not, I'm just going to verbally say it. So wish me luck.
This live and every live is driven by a father's love for his daughters.
Of course, it's not going to
These
work
are the affirmations we share. And now, we share them with you. I am going to change the world. I am very intelligent. I am very powerful.
Okay, it's messing up the affirmations. I don't like that. I don't like that because those are special. Those are special. These are the affirmations that I actually would say with my daughters when we would meet via. We haven't seen each other in about 2.5 weeks, and it is killing me slowly. But these are very important. We came up with them together. I think they're very empowering to little girls. They're very tiny. So I call them my little owls. That's why you'll see a lot of owl imagery in the stuff that I do, just to let them know if they ever sneak a look at a computer, to be like, Dad still loves you. He really misses you. But these are the affirmations. Please feel free to adopt them to yourself if you see fit. I am going to change the world. I am very intelligent. I am very powerful. It powers you up. I mean, I feel good now that I've said them. I really do. And I hope they're still saying them every day. Okay. It's always special, when you see little ones growing up that, we as adults know how important it is to constantly empower yourself. And I think that's part of the reason why the Now movement exists, because people that have come out of toxic relationships, out of domestic narcissistic abuse, they soon find out that just because you're free, you're not completely free. There are scars involved, you know. But sometimes, just sometimes, you can use those scars as a badge of courage, that you actually overcame something that was trying to destroy you, and you've actually come to grips with the fact that you are indeed a worthy person. Uh, let's
This
see
live
if we can
and
get
every
to. No, I'm not playing you anymore. I'm not playing you anymore. Okay, so narcissistic abuse often leaves survivors with scars that go beyond the physical, invisible wounds that affect the mind and emotions. And we're going to talk about one of those scars tonight. That scar is okay. Let's go to the next slide. Over explaining. That's what that scar is, over explaining. A lot of survivors, when they come out of domestic narcissistic, and toxic relationships, they find that they over explain a lot because they did that a lot in the relationship. And we're going to go over that. They constantly walked on eggshells. And this is so nefarious because it affects children as well. Okay, children that are in the midst of a narcissist. Because you have to remember, the narcissist cares about no one but themselves. It doesn't matter if your family, as you know, it doesn't matter if you're their significant other. It doesn't matter if it's their children. Their main goal, their main purpose, as long as they take in oxygen, is to support that mask does not fall off. So children are treated as pawns and trophies, not living, breathing human beings, not beings that need emotional care, not beings that need love. Um, so we know that over explaining is a trauma response. A survivor will tell you that. You'll find that many survivors, they will just start like this torrent of explaining themselves. And it could be something simple, it could be something that's not their fault, it could be something because they're just trying to keep the peace, because that's what they have been mentally trained to do. While walking on eggshells, you don't want to do anything that might upset the narcissist. Okay, you don't want to challenge the narcissist. See, that's the mindset that you have while you're in a loving relationship. Okay, you will do anything to keep the peace. And the narcissist actually enjoys this. They do. In hindsight, I look back and I remember those times when I'm like, no, this is what really happened. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm going down the line. And I would glance over and they have this dissatisfied grin on their face. What some people call the narcissistic smirk. Because they're actually enjoying the fact that they have you to the point that you have to explain everything to them. When you survive, though, when you get out, when you get broken away from the chains, when you're out of that relationship, you still are vigilant when people ask you simple questions. I've asked people simple questions, and I actually went through this recently where the person just kept going on and on and on. And then, since this is what I try to help people get through in the Now movement, I allowed them to speak. I allowed them to finish what they were saying. And I was like, you know what? To be honest, I really didn't need all of that. I appreciate you taking the time to give that to me. But I could tell, I was like, this person must have been in a toxic or narcissistic relationship because it was a super simple question. But I guess the question was weighted to where a person could take responsibility for it or not take responsibility for it. But they just kept going on and on. What could have been answered with a yes or no went on for literally 10 minutes. Okay. And it hurt me. It hurt me. And I've been trying to, because not everybody is ready to speak their truth. I've learned that from doing Survivor Story Saturdays here. I've learned that from speaking to people in, private messages, DMs, that many people aren't ready to unburden themselves and speak the truth. And I respect that. I respect that. But I think that once you come to grips with that, the truth is the truth, ain't nothing changing about the truth, and that the truth, not to, use this quote, but the truth can set you free. I think, a lot of people will find a quicker route to healing. But let me look at my notes. So, over explaining is a trauma response born from walking on eggshells. You learn to justify everything because silence was punished. But here's the deal, it's not weakness. It's a survival tool that you used that is no longer needed. Like I said, with that, speaking to that person and asking that question, and I'm like, the impatient me is saying, oh, can you just give me the answer? I'm trying to, I want to interject and say, no, that's not what I'm asking you. That, in fact, that has nothing to do with the question, but they're taking me down this path because they want to make sure that, hey, if I just explain myself fully, nobody will blame me. I won't be, thought that I'm lying. There'll be no confusion. That's definitely a trauma response. So self-doubt and insecurity are scars left by post-narcissistic abuse. They create feelings of unworthiness, driving the need for constant assurance and validation. What I just basically said in a roundabout way. Survivors find themselves in this strange situation. They've seen through the mask. They've gotten away from the monster. They've gotten away from their tormentor. Okay. But they're still walking around with these remnants of the relationship still stuck in them. They want to be validated. Okay. Most people, most empaths really don't have a need to be validated. I know for myself, as an empath, I don't have a need to be validated. I do it or I don't do it. End of story. Nobody else figures into the picture. That's that confidence that we had before we met the narcissist. And that's what they slowly tried to destroy within us. Okay, so they kind of like the fact that you're walking on eggshells. They kind of like the fact that you're over explaining. They kind of like the fact that you're hyper vigilant. And I'm going to get into since I brought up the word hyper vigilant, I'm going to bring up how this affects the little ones, the children. So let's go to the next. So let me ask you, how does it start? Okay. How does it all begin? And here's how it starts. It begins subtly. I just wanted you to understand. Narcissists condition you to doubt yourself. They twist truth until you explain yourself to prove that you're good. That's the dynamic in the narcissistic relationship. They always must feel as if they are above you. They always must feel like they are in control of each and every situation. Okay? They need you to, for lack of a better term, they need you to bow down. That's what they're looking for from you. They need you to bow down to, hey, like I said in the DSM-5, there shall be no guards before me. This is the narcissist mindset. Let me open this up because I'm probably missing something. Hold on 1 second. This is the narcissist mindset. This is the way that they look at life in general. I am superior to everyone around me. So it's almost, just to put it in a term that a lot of people would actually understand, if you're at work, whether you're in mid management, upper management, the director comes in and something goes wrong and they ask for an explanation. There will be two types of people that will volunteer answers. There will be the over explainer. The over explainer either wants validation or they don't want to be blamed for it. Okay. And there are those that have confidence and they're going to say, hey, listen, I know it happened, but all I can say is this. And then they stop. Okay, because one person is looking to, if I over explain the situation, I will not be blamed for it, or I will be validated for it. I won't be put under this uncomfortable spotlight. See, that's what the survivors think, that there's always this spotlight following, because that's what happened in a relationship. That's what happened with the narcissist. Everything was under scrutiny, and it had to pass that seal of approval from the narcissist, or there would be hell to pay. Okay, and that's what they talk about when they say walking on eggshells. You just want to get through. You just want to get across the room. Okay, it might be a little bit uncomfortable. You might have to walk a little bit lighter, a little bit crazier, but you just want to get out of the way. And when you look at these dynamics in these relationships, how can you call that a relationship? That's just control. That's just a form of control. If you wake up in the morning, one of the first things that I started to realize after about a week of being away is that I actually just woke up. I wasn't trying to figure out how I could avoid an argument, or much less silencing myself because of something that I saw that was definitely wrong. Okay, it might have had to do with the household. It might have had to do with finances. It might have to do with the kids. But I'm sitting up there trying to figure out how to approach this without creating more chaos. That's not a relationship. That's not two people working together to reach a common goal. That is one person controlling the other person. Okay, if you're inside, if you're in the midst of a relationship where you feel this way, you really need to rethink that relationship. You really need to rethink that relationship, because, why should you, if someone says that they love you, if someone says that they care about you, if someone says that, hey, listen, I have your best interests in mind, why would they want you to walk around on eggshells? Why would they get a satisfaction from watching you over explain yourself? You know, in a relationship, if I found that my partner, now that I'm aware, was over explaining themselves, I would check myself and be like, no, 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 that's not needed. That's not necessary. You don't have to go that far. I believe you, because I wouldn't be in a relationship with you if I didn't have that trust of you. Now, see, the narcissist uses that to their advantage. Okay, they use that to their advantage. So they're going to let you just keep on talking, but they're never going to stop and say, I believe you, I trust you, you're my partner, you're my soulmate, you're my spouse. They're never going to say that. So, what happens is, and this happens during the relationship, and I'm going to be transparent, there was a time period where I said sorry for everything. It might not have been my fault. In hindsight, looking back, I'm like, that wasn't even my fault. The hell did I apologize for? The hell did I apologize for? It wasn't even part of me. It was straight up, oh, I'm sorry. You know, I'm blind in this eye. So every once in a while I bump into somebody. Oh, I'm sorry. And then I start explaining, I can't see anything out my left side. So anything on my left side, and the person is probably looking at me like, you're fine. Go ahead. You just bumped into me. It's okay. But I started to notice that about myself, and it upset me. It upset me. Yes, if I'm at fault for something, I'm going to apologize. That's just the way that I'm built. That's just the way that I was brought up. Okay, if you do something wrong and it wasn't done with ill intent, you apologize immediately. You know, but I became so ashamed of myself that I was just like, I just wanted to avoid people because I thought I'm apologizing for everything. And if you find yourself in that situation, leave it in the comments. Whether you're watching this now or later, leave it in the comments. For a confident person, for a person that, I had kind of a fast paced life when I was young. I did a lot of things that some of them I'm like, yeah, that was a great experience. Some of them was like, what the hell did you do that for? But at the same time, I grew up with confidence. I knew who I was. I knew my worth. And it's kind of counter to that mindset when every little thing, if somebody drops something, they all of a sudden, oh, I'm sorry, I must have left the cup on the edge. No, that person dropped it. What are you apologizing for? You know, so I had to get out of that. That was part of my healing journey to understand that not everything is my fault. No matter what this person said in that relationship, not everything is my fault. I'm saying sorry for stuff. Oh, wow, I'm sorry. Oh, wow, I'm sorry. They're talking about stuff that happened years before I met them. And then again, we look at that narcissistic smirk, just confirming that, oh, yeah, I got them just exactly where I want them. Okay, it's going to be fun tearing this person apart. They're losing confidence already. They have no sense of worth anymore. They're apologizing for everything. I'm winning. That's the narcissist mindset, and that's what makes it so dangerous. Um, let's see, what is it? So this is the truth. Okay, this is the truth. You don't deserve. You don't own anyone a performance. Constantly apologizing, constantly over explaining yourself, because that's what you're doing. You're putting on a performance. Okay, again, you're seeking that validation. You're trying to not be blamed for something, and you're trying to make sure that people understand you clearly. Okay, so unless you're speaking to someone that speaks their native tongue is completely different from yours, there's really no need to constantly explain stuff. Most adults, okay, understand basic common sense concepts. They do. Okay. If they didn't, there would be riots at every workplace. Most people understand concepts of common sense. So sometimes when you find yourself over explaining yourself, you have to just take a pause. You have to 2 second pauses. Sometimes when you're coming out the trauma bond, it has to be 5 second pauses, but 2 second pauses actually help. Okay, you reassess the landscape just for 2 seconds. Your brain actually works quicker than it. But before you open your mouth, just take 2 seconds, reassess the landscape, reassess the situation, and then speak. Okay, this is part of your healing. There's no way around it. I know for the most part, you want to say something because your ego, or you really don't feel like you've been blamed for stuff for the last I don't know how long. You don't want to get blamed for anything else, but every situation is different. Every conversation is different, and the narcissist isn't there anymore. See, the person that you walked on eggshells for isn't there anymore. So sometimes, just sometimes, if you take that 2 second pause before you respond, you might decide that, no, you know what? I don't know what happened, and leave it at that. or nope, that wasn't me, and leave it at that. You've answered the question. And instead of saying, no, it wasn't me because I was at work at this time and there was a security camera over my head and I had to see, I had to sign for a package for the mailman. And then after the mailman left, I waved at the lady that was across the street. Why are you doing all of that? This is the scar that I am talking about. This is the scar. This is the scar that we carry outside of the relationship that we have to, again, scars are not a bad thing. Scars just show that you went through battle and you survived it. Okay. But for the most part, just a medical insight here. After a scar heals, it might itch for a little while, but after a while, it's just there. It's just a gentle reminder that you went through something and that you actually healed. Think about that for a second. Not all scars are bad. They're not. Some scars have actually shaped us into the people that we are today. And there are some scars that we're still dealing with. I call those the shadows. Okay, the shadows that live within us. We're still dealing with them. And I get that. I really do. I get that. And that's going to be a lifelong battle. Trust me. Dealing every freaking day. Okay. It's going to be a battle. But those scars that show that you set yourself free, that you broke free from the chains, that you got yourself away from a person whose main desire, their only desire was to destroy you to make you feel better, you should look at that proudly. You should feel good about that. You deserve peace. I can't put it any simpler. You deserve peace. You went through probably the most horrific time of your life. And I get it because I've been there. The most horrific time of your life. It's like an episode of From. It's like the people at the window saying, let me in, let me in. That's the narcissist. Because once you open that window or you open that door, the narcissist just destroys your life. They destroy everything around you. One of the things that I wanted to talk about before I end this, because this was supposed to be brief, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is how this affects children. Okay, and you can see this. You can actually see this. You'll have children that over explain. You have children that will run to say that wasn't me. And I know kids do that to a certain extent, but there's a different type of energy that's involved in it. It's almost like they don't want to upset the narcissistic parent. Children should grow up emotionally safe. They shouldn't have to walk on eggshells. They shouldn't. They shouldn't have to walk into a room and automatically become hypervigilant because they have to internally and mentally gauge the temperature of the room. That's not growing up. That's not growing up where you have to gauge the temperature of your parent before you do anything. That's what walking on eggshells for children is. And it's a terrible feeling because that's part of my shadow, because that's how I grew up. I always had to before I made a request, before I said anything, before I asked for anything, I had to gauge the temperature of the room because I had to make sure that my parent was going to be receptive to it, or was I going to be punished for it? For literally just being a child. I saw stability as far as adults and emotional connection with children from my grandparents. And I carry that on. And my two grown sons that are doing awesome. All the things that my grandparents had given me as far as that emotional security blanket where I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. And yes, I got whoopings for doing bad stuff. I did. And had to go get the doggone switch myself. It happened. but I felt emotionally safe with them. That's why if you follow me for any amount of time on my social media, I always talk about my grandparents. Okay, because they gave me so many valuable tools. And I think that a part of them is why I do what I do now with the Now movement, because of what they instilled in me. And at the end of the day, it's frustrating, it's upsetting, because that's the same thing. That's all I want to give my daughters. I want to give them a fighting chance. I don't want them walking on eggshells. I don't want them when they used to get on Zoom calls with me, and they would just start explaining stuff like, "Oh, we missed it because we had to do." No, 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 no. You don't have to explain that to me. I'm just happy that you're here. I'm just happy that you're here, because I never want them to feel that they need to walk on eggshells around me. You don't have to explain these things to me. At the end of the day, I'm just happy that you're here and we can converse and we can learn and we can say our affirmations. You know, in the scheme of things, you would think it's something that needs to be addressed. I think there needs to be more outreach. I think there needs to be more ways for people that are dealing with toxic and narcissistic relationships to be able to get help. Physical abuse is sickening. It's horrible. I get that. But mental abuse is horrible too. There are people that are broken that are still trying to pick up the pieces after going through a narcissistic relationship. Me, on the other hand, I've always had this thing. I turn pain into power. Yes, I hurt, I break. I feel the same things that everybody else does. Not the same things, but I have those same feelings. I have the anguish. I have the grief. I have, I'm losing my mind. I don't know which way is up and down. I have all of those same feelings. But after a while, and this is what Now stands for. After a while, I sit with myself, me and my shadow, we argue a little bit, and then I just say to myself, there's no other way but forward. There is no other way but forward. That's what Now stands, that's what the Now movement is about. Is ensuring that everybody knows that, hey, listen, yeah, you hit a rough spot. You hit a rough patch on the road. I get it. Okay, you was involved in a whole soul theft. I understand that. But are you going to stay there, or are you just going to move forward? And that's only a decision you can make. I'm not judging you. You're going to move forward when you feel the time is right for you. I get that. I respect that. But what time is better than now? That's why I do this. That's why I've been doing these lives, turning pain into purpose. This was the time that usually me and my daughters would sit down and we say our affirmations and do movement. And you said, my heart for like the last 3 weeks used to feel like it was falling apart. But turning alchemy. I am an alchemist. I turn pain into power. I turn pain into purpose. So after a while, the pain just sat with me. But I refuse to let it take over me. So I throw most of the pain. I say, well, this is the purpose. I can help others. I'm experiencing this now. I know for damn well that somebody else is experiencing it. I know for sure someone else is experiencing it. I just don't want them to hit the depths of pain that I've hit. If that makes sense. So that's what the Now movement is all about. That's why, and I actually have a psychiatrist that's actually doing Survivor Story Saturday tomorrow, and that was a powerful episode. I just edited it today, and I was like, "Damn, this is powerful." We have a person with what I like to call, I'm not being disrespectful, that's a doctor, and has alphabet soup after their name, and I'm like, wow. This is awesome, But again, I look at it, this can help somebody. Because, see, some people may not listen to me. Some people may decide what I'm saying doesn't fit their category. But when you hear it from people that this is what they do for a living, this is what they went to school for, this is what they did their internship for, okay, maybe it might start making sense. I say this often, and part of the shame of breaking free from the chains where I stayed kind of to myself and just stayed inside of myself was because I knew. I knew. I knew what I was involved in. Deep down at the core level, I knew that something was off within the first year. Something was extremely wrong. But I think the narcissist plays off of this, and this is why empaths are so important to them as far as their food supply, is because even though that I knew I was trapped in the illusion, and I thought that maybe I can bring them back to the illusion that I experienced in the beginning. You can't carry that shame anymore. And at the end of the day, stop over explaining to yourself. Stop over explaining to you. There's no need for it. You don't have to. You deserve peace. And if you were in a classroom and the professor in front of you turned around and said to the class, "Okay, who deserves peace, and when do you want it?" Well, you should raise your hand and say, "I deserve peace, and I want it now." That's what this whole thing is built on. The website is up in the thingy up there on YouTube. It's right there, in fact, right under my hoodie. Right, let me see. Right there. It's right there under my hand. So visit, look around. There's free resources there, okay, to help you understand this. And like I always freaking say, if you ever get to the point, and I've been there, like, don't I deserve better? When you ask yourself that question, you already know the answer. You do. You do. And with that being said, I I just got the alarm that I'm half an hour late for my meeting. But with that being said, I guess this is synchronicity. This is universe saying that I'm doing what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. We end our Zoom meetings by saying the same affirmations, and I hope you'll join me. And I don't think that they'll mind if you use them, even though we created them together. I don't think they will mind. Okay. I want everybody to empower themselves. So, as I would do with my little owls, let's say our affirmations. I am going to change the world. I am very intelligent. I am very powerful. Let that sink in for a second. I'm Minister Robinson, Church of Real Talk, founder of the Now Movement, No Other Way. I do this because I too am a survivor, and I understand. Reach out, go visit the website. There's a contact form. Reach out. Let me know if I can be of assistance. With that being said, keep healing, stay powerful. Love you guys.